Thank you for tuning in to another episode of The Girl Dad Show. Today is a very special episode as it is a Girl Dad Talk where I will share with you some of the major things that are going on in my life, give you guys some updates on this concept that I've been really wrestling with this year, and of like changing chapters as it relates to both my kids, but also just as a parent and what that means. And then also just kind of recapping what it's like this year for the next season of the Girl Dad Show, and then wrapping up with a quick update on how we're going to change the show season and take a break during the holidays and pick up back in the new year. So let's jump right into it. The big thing I really want to talk about today is just the power of adaptability. There is this thing that is happening with my kids, and it's been researched really well that, kids around, 0 to 5 are very much so in need of direct parenting, a lot of direction, guidance, almost like management, and a lot of teaching, a lot of show, tell, do, and creating that environment for them to learn core things. And then in this next chapter, they are starting to understand, the social skills about making friends and wanting to build who they are and how they think. And they start to question things a lot more and ask a lot more questions beyond the needs of survival. And I'm assuming it'll continue to evolve in the next chapter as they become young adults and they start to have a sense of who they are and what they want to do and what they want to achieve and start formulating those things in their brains. The thing that I really want to talk about is that I have read about all this and I have researched this quite a bit and just kind of the changing of the stages. And to be quite frank, I have chosen to even build my businesses during the time where I felt it was the most opportunistic for me to double down on my work efforts to maximize on these changing tides. The thing that's really striking me this year is really this concept that it's a lot harder to do than you say it is or you think it's going to be. And what I mean by that is being a parent is very different. It's not it's hard because of the change, but I do feel like as a dad I've started to master what it's like to be a dad, over the last I want to say even 6 or 7 years, and I feel really confident in my abilities, and I'm very, very happy that I have learned how to be a good dad and what that means for me and what that means for my girls and my family. And it's really, really frustrating to have to now relearn the skills and have to relearn what good means. And again, I say this with tongue-in-cheek frustration, right? I'm not upset about it, but it is one of those things where you go through this learning curve to develop a new skill and identify what success looks like, curate those skills within yourself and learn how to be that great, what that good looks like, and then try to be a great version of that. And then now the kids are getting older and my kids are entering into the second stage that I was alluding to earlier. And, they still want time with me and they still want to play and they still enjoy it. They still need a lot of direction and they want to learn from me as well. But they're also interested in, why things are the way they are, why I do the things that I do. They're also curious about their friends. And what good friends look like for them, what they enjoy about socialization and what they enjoy about their friends now, what they don't like. And they're also a lot more keen on how the world works and their part in it and their feelings about things. And so it's really interesting because for me, I equated a lot to business because that's really where I live. And it's very akin to this concept of like situational leadership. Realistically, obviously, there's a lot of parallels to it, but I also know that, it's different, because, you are situationally adapting to the learner's mindset so that you can figure out what they best need for that moment to learn. And I know all of parenting isn't just about teaching and learning, but there's also bonding and relational elements as well. But there's a lot of corollary and an incredible amount of similarities in these two concepts. And it's really interesting because when you think about situational leadership, it's really about identifying the learner's mindset so that you can adapt to be the best leader for them. And parenting is leadership. It is absolutely leadership. And I feel like there is a ton of lessons that can be brought over from here. And I think that, instead of it being maybe 6 months or 3 months or even 2 weeks of development or training, you're just thinking about kids as like 5 years and 10 years of development and training, right? So for example, if I had to kind of share my epiphanies, it's like this whole concept that, the first 5 or 6 years, they needed me to tell them how to do things, show, tell, do. Show them what good look like. Show them how to brush their teeth. Show them how to interact with the other humans. Show them how to clean up after themselves. Tell them to do it, and then watch them do it. Have them show me do it, right? And it was really, really fun. And it was a really great experience to be able to exercise that muscle of, this sponge that you could do no wrong. You were the best thing since sliced bread. And I'm sure I still am to them to a certain degree, but they definitely are now starting to roll their eyes when they think I say something that's embarrassing or dorky. And they're showing the fringes of that future state of where my relationship is going to be with them. And it doesn't negate that I'm going to continue to be, myself and probably embarrass them. And it'll be really fun for me to do so. But I think the biggest thing that I'm really thinking about right now is as they start to figure out what they like and don't like and start to understand more about the world, and they start asking more critical questions like, why do we have to do that? Or why do you have to work or make these choices? Or why do we not help these people but help these people? And it's just like really, really fascinating because it kind of follows the second stage of the situational leadership, graph, where it kind of goes from this managerial direction-based, leadership model to a more supportive model. Coaching model. And coaching is really around like not telling them how to do it, but like supporting them in it and helping them guide through the decisions, right? So a lot of encouragement, a lot of support, a lot of belief, but also a lot of dialogue and coaching them through the decisions that they want to make themselves. So it's like something around those areas that I need to start learning how to adapt to over the next, I think, 5 or 6 years. And I've always known this because I've read about the studies and I've read about, just learners development, but it's really fun to think about it from a situational leadership mindset and then actually have to go through it because the kids are growing up and I can't stop it. And unlike business where you can basically just choose to leave the company or stick in a stage that you like and hire different people, you can't really do that with family. They're going to grow up and you have to learn to evolve, or it could be very detrimental. And so that choice is different, right? And so you don't have a choice. You have to learn how to adapt. And for me, I want to be a great dad. And so what does that look like for me in this next stage? I think it has a lot to do with just learning how to do the coaching and supporting skills as my kids are starting to learn. And obviously I'm going to continue to teach them stuff and try to guide them as best as I can through direction and guidance because they're too young to make these bigger decisions on their own. But I do want to make sure that I employ more listening skills and really employ more coaching skills in this next chapter of my parenting journey and really learning how to be a better coach. And I think it's going to be a struggle because I'm very opinionated and I'm very binary and logical, but I do know it's something that I really, really want to do. And I think it's very, very important. So if you're a parent out there, with 6 to 12-year-old kids, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. But my recommendation to you is really think about the changes that have happened in your kids' mental capacity and intellectual horsepower. They're evolving. And you need to evolve with them if you want to be good and great for them. And I think a good success criteria for me is, being the best that I can be for my kids at the stage that they're at, which is exactly what situational leadership is. And so it's really, really important for me to understand where they're at and then try to adapt to them versus them adapting to me. And that's kind of where I'm sitting right now. And I'm really eager for this next stage, slightly anxious because I'm not a good listener and I'm definitely not a good coach. But I think it'll be really worthwhile. And it should be really, really well served. And the hope is that if I can learn these skills and adapt to my kid stage in life, we'll have a really good third stage, which I think is where you start to become more of a mentor. And you move from coaching and supporting to mentorship. And you help them, work through problems and you work through solutions together. And you help them identify what is good and bad for them. And you become that trusted resource and advisor for them, which is what I'd love to be for the rest of my life, right? And so when you think about how can I create an environment where they always look to come back to me to be an advisor or mentor, or they want to come back to me to be my friend and spend time with me as a family member and as a parent, I think about how can I make it so that they always see me as someone that's always been there for them, not micromanaging, not pedantic, but always the right leader at the right time, because they are going to evolve. And if you follow the situational leadership model, you understand very quickly that if you apply the wrong leadership stage to the wrong learners stage, it can come off very negatively. This is where people feel like you're micromanaging, or you're being pedantic, or you're being arrogant, or you're too hands off and you're unsupportive. And so you have to really understand the impact that the wrong leadership style can have on the right, on the wrong leadership, at the right leadership stage. And so matching those two things is incredibly important for that experience. And I think that experience is really what imprints upon people to have a fondness for them or look for them to come to them later on. Like a great example is my mentor. He inevitably ended up hiring me for one of his companies, and he was a manager, and he gave me a lot of direction at first because I was kind of new to the role that he put me in. Intentionally, he asked me to take over a role that I wasn't familiar with, and it was a lot of show tell do, and then eventually I got comfortable with it. And it became a little bit annoying when he started to tell me what to do when I became a master at that craft. And so having those conversations with him, he understood and he adapted. He adapted to someone to being a coach and a supporter. And that was really interesting because that inevitably led me to taking on another role that was new to me. And we both were new to it, to be honest. And it allowed me to grow. It allowed me to grow in this new role in a new way with him because I had a new manager director that was basically telling me and directing me how to learn this new skill. And he became more of a coach, supporting me, believing in me. And then inevitably, when I mastered that skill, and we became somewhat more on the level playing field of professional skill sets, he became my mentor again. And it's like this weird full circle that we went through. And now I consider him very fondly. I see him not only as my mentor, but I see him as a friend. I actually see him as a brother, someone that I would love to work with, work for, and given the opportunity, manage if he let me lead him. And I think he would. That's the funny thing. And I think that it's really interesting to have all of these relationships go through a really great relationship that I have when I look back at it. But if you dissect it and break it down, it went through those stages. And he did an incredible job of adapting to the stage that I was at, which led for me to have a very fond heart and mind towards him, even to this day, where I feel very comfortable calling him and saying, hey, I have this problem. Can you just walk me through what you think and let me lay it out? And let's just have a good conversation about it. And he's an advisor to me both on marriage and business and personal and friendship and all of these things. And it's an incredible relationship in a lot of ways. But if you dissect how it was built, it was because he matched my learner stage and applied the right leadership model that made me feel very heard and welcomed and supported. And if you think about that feeling and sentiment, I want that feeling and sentiment for my kids. And in order for me to do that, I think it comes with this idea that the kids are going to evolve, but they don't know that they're evolving. And so how do you match what they need while still being able to be a good parent and directing them and instilling the right values that you want to press upon them, and so that they're good contributing members of society. And so all of that to say, if you have these moments in your parenting life, please consider the fact that you may need to adapt. You may need to adapt to the kids' needs and stages if you want to have that really robust and beautiful fondness and relationship with your kids later on in life. It all comes back down to how well can you adapt. And I know it's hard. It's hard for me. I know it. I know I need to do it, and it's still hard. Like, my first reaction is just to tell them and solve the problem and do these 7 steps and it'll work out, right? And I need to exercise that skill because it's super, super important to me to build that relationship later on in life. And I really want to be there for them for those moments. So that's kind of what I want to talk about today, and just kind of share my big epiphany that I've had over the last year, and just watching my kids grow up in natural kind of occurrences, and how I'm thinking about it and how I'm reacting to it. And so would love to hear your thoughts on it, and I just wanted to share it with you guys so you guys can understand that it's very, very important to be not only a situational leader for your people as business leaders and owners, but also to be a good leader for your kids and have a really, really intentional and thoughtful way of being a parent and navigating those stages well, so you can be not only helpful to them, but also thought of fondly and build that deep relationship of trust. Okay, so that was it. That was my big epiphany that I wanted to share with you guys, and the big thing that I learned this year from just working, living, and doing this podcast. But I do also want to share with you some next things that are going to happen with the show. The show is going to take its break like it normally does, not in the summer, right before Father's Day, where we launch the show. We're actually going to take the break during the holidays. Over the last 4 years, we have realized the listener count goes down, and it's incredibly hard to schedule interviews during the holidays. And so I don't know why I'm fighting uphill for something that doesn't need to happen. And so we're going to be taking a 6-week break, and we will pause from middle of November all the way until New Year's, and we will resume regular weekly interviews of wonderful parents that are also building business in life starting in January. And it will pick back up, and we will go all the way through Father's Day, with the season 6 starting on Father's Day, but with no break. And so the break will just essentially move from the summer to the winter. And it'll be our time to kind of regroup, catch up on content, re-strategize anything that we want to do with the show, and try to build it out. Because now that we're heading into second half of season 5 and into season 6, I'd love to continue to evolve the show to be more useful for me, but also for you, the listener. So always adapting, always learning, and always trying to improve on different things that I'm working on, and the show is no different. That all to be said, I do want to share with you a couple of comments about the holidays. And my birthday, actually. I'm super excited because I'm turning 45, which feels more monumental than anything else. And I don't think it's really that meaningful in anything, but it just feels very big because it's like a odd number that's like significant. But I'm excited. I'm very, very excited to go into this holiday season. It's been a really, really tough few years for me professionally. I feel like the market has been very volatile, and there's been a lot of ups and downs, and it's been really hard to navigate it all. But over the most part, it's been picking back up and looking a little more stable over the last year. And so really, really happy about where we're landing now as a family and as a business and as a business owner. But I just wanted to say to you, if you are thinking about business and family and all the same things that I'm always thinking about, it doesn't matter what the world does or how it works. I mean, it matters, sorry. Listen, learn, and educate yourself. But at the end of the day, just focus on what you can control and really think about what is in your purview that you can impact and influence, and focus your mental and emotional energy into controlling what you can control. And that is a lesson that I've learned very harshly this year, because ever since I started doing that, things started to even out a little bit. Instead of trying to gamify the market or understand what the leverage points were, I still learn, I still watch, and I still ask a lot of questions. But at the end of the day, I just focus on what I can focus on. And so with that, I am going to be visiting family for Thanksgiving and spending a week there with my family and enjoying my kids with their cousins, and it's going to be great. And then Christmas I'll do with my immediate family, and then go visit my extended family for New Year's and do some really fun stuff with them, and really just making it about family as much as I possibly can, because I think that you can get so caught up in building your professional life that you forget these moments are the moments that matter. And 20 years from now, no amount of success or money is going to satiate the desire and need to have family traditions, family bonds, and your kids remembering those fond memories and wanting to perpetuate it as they get older. And so that's what I'm really looking at doing this year, is controlling what I can control, not worrying so much about what I can't, and focusing on what matters to me the most, which is building a really good family, building traditions and consistency, and spending that quality time and learning how to be a better parent during this next chapter of my life in parenting. So that's my message to you. That's my big update to you. And that's also my update about the show. I hope you found this podcast useful or helpful and insightful. Would love to hear your thoughts about your navigation through these changing stages of parenting, and what you think about my comparison to situational leadership. And happy holidays. Happy holidays. And I will see you in the new year. Thank you all. And if you found this useful, please share, and definitely please give it a 5-star rating on your favorite podcasting platform. Appreciate it more than you know. Talk to you next year in 2026. Bye, y'all.